Manila woke to a city on edge. The air was thick with tension, and even before sunrise, the streets buzzed with unease. People gathered in small groups, eyes glued to their phones and radios, searching for updates on the brewing crisis just beyond their shores. News screens everywhere replayed a tense standoff. Images of a Filipino supply vessel, dwarfed by a looming Chinese Coast Guard cutter, attempting to reach a remote outpost in the contested South China Sea. The world watched as the small ship pressed forward, determined to deliver supplies to Filipino Marines stationed on a lonely, windswept shoal. The Chinese ship, water cannons at the ready, shadowed the Filipino crew with aggressive maneuvers. Sirens blared, and the sea churned as the cutter closed in, sending a clear message: turn back, or face the consequences. The tension on deck was palpable, every crew member bracing for escalation. This was more than a routine confrontation. It felt like a tipping point. In newsrooms and living rooms alike, Filipinos held their breath, aware that the next few hours could change the course of their nation's history. China's sweeping claims over the South China Sea, rejected by its neighbors and an international tribunal, had led to countless clashes over the years. But this one was different. The scale, the stakes, and the international attention made it feel like the world was teetering on the edge of something far bigger. The world watched, anxious, as the U.S. issued stern warnings and Manila's President Marcos Jr. convened emergency meetings with his top advisors. The White House called for restraint, but also reaffirmed its commitment to defend its ally, raising the specter of a wider conflict. The Philippines faced a grim choice: escalate and risk war with a superpower, or back down and lose face on the world stage. Military officers pored over maps and intelligence, weighing every possible outcome, knowing that any misstep could have devastating consequences. Diplomats scrambled to open back channels. Protesters rallied in the streets demanding action, and the entire nation braced for the next move. International envoys rushed to Manila and Beijing, hoping to defuse the crisis before it spiraled out of control. As dusk fell, the standoff held. The Filipino crew stood firm, refusing to yield, while the Chinese cutter circled, unyielding and ever-present. The sun dipped below the horizon, but the tension only grew, casting a long shadow over the region. All eyes turned to Washington and the ASEAN summit, hoping for a diplomatic breakthrough. The world's most powerful leaders were now directly involved, their decisions poised to shape the fate of the region. But the next move came from the most unlikely place: North Korea. As the world waited for statements from Washington or Beijing, Pyongyang suddenly entered the fray. The news didn't break from an ally or regional power, but from Pyongyang's state-run news agency. International journalists scrambled to verify the reports, their faces a mix of disbelief and concern. The world was stunned. No one expected North Korea, a nation known for missile tests, not maritime law, to weigh in. Their sudden involvement sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles, raising urgent questions about their motives and intentions. The South China Sea crisis had just taken a wild, unpredictable turn. Analysts scrambled to make sense of the new dynamics, as news anchors around the globe tried to explain what North Korea's move could mean for the fragile balance in Asia. Suddenly, the balance of power in Asia was up for grabs. Military ships from several nations maneuvered in the Pacific, and world leaders gathered in tense summits, each trying to protect their interests while avoiding catastrophe. The question on everyone's mind: what was North Korea playing at? Was this a calculated move to gain leverage, or a reckless gamble that could ignite a wider conflict? Experts debated late into the night, searching for clues in Pyongyang's cryptic statements. The world held its breath, united in uncertainty, as the South China Sea crisis entered a new and dangerous phase. As the evening news began to air across South Korea, viewers expected the usual headlines: regional disputes, economic updates, and the latest political developments. But tonight, something extraordinary was about to unfold. A quiet yet startling statement from North Korea's official news agency, KCNA, suddenly flashed across screens and news feeds, catching both journalists and the public completely off guard. In a rare move, the North Korean Foreign Ministry expressed deep concern over the escalating tensions in the South China Sea. emphasizing the importance of every nation's right to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Without directly naming China, the statement sharply criticized what it called hegemonic actions and the bullying of smaller states, language that seemed to challenge the region's most powerful player. The statement went further, calling for strict respect for international law and the peaceful resolution of disputes, echoing, almost word for word, the diplomatic language used by the Philippines in recent months. Coming from Pyongyang, a country known for its isolation and unpredictable diplomacy, this was nothing short of unprecedented. In Manila, government officials were first stunned, then cautiously hopeful. Could this signal a new chapter in regional relations, or was it merely a fleeting gesture? After all, North Korea had long been under strict sanctions from the Philippines, with little to no diplomatic warmth between the two nations. Why would Pyongyang suddenly appear to take Manila's side? The diplomatic community was thrown into a frenzy. Analysts and journalists scrambled to interpret the motives behind this bombshell announcement, debating whether it was a genuine policy shift or a calculated move in a larger geopolitical game. Was North Korea seeking new alliances, or simply trying to unsettle the status quo in Asia? Theories abounded, but answers were few. Suddenly, the world's attention shifted away from the ongoing naval standoff and focused squarely on Pyongyang, eager to understand what this unexpected move might mean for the region. In a single statement, North Korea had upended the established rules of Asian diplomacy, leaving leaders and diplomats scrambling to respond. The world was left to wonder, what did Kim Jong Un truly want, and what would he do next? Pyongyang's statement shattered assumptions about Asian alliances. For decades, North Korea was seen as China's unruly but loyal client. Now, with one press release, it signaled independence. Beijing's silence was telling. Behind closed doors, officials were likely furious. For the US and its allies, the rift was both an opportunity and a risk. A less dependent North Korea could mean new diplomatic openings, or new unpredictability. In Seoul and Tokyo, officials braced for fallout. Southeast Asian nations saw a reminder: alliances can fracture overnight. North Korea's move proved even the most stable partnerships can shift. The diplomatic map of Asia was being redrawn in real time. Nothing was certain anymore. The shock of North Korea's move is rooted in its deep, historic bond with China. Forged in the Korean War, sealed by a 1961 treaty, China's support has been North Korea's lifeline, militarily and economically. China supplies most of North Korea's food, fuel, and trade, wielding enormous leverage. For Beijing, North Korea is a buffer against US forces in South Korea, a necessary if difficult ally. The alliance has always been about survival and security. Pyongyang's sudden defiance now threatens to upend this decades-old arrangement. The stakes for both sides have never been higher. Despite the lips-and-teeth rhetoric, China and North Korea's relationship is riddled with mistrust. North Korea's Juche ideology resents dependence on Beijing. Pyongyang has often defied China, especially over its nuclear program, which Beijing opposes. China's support for UN sanctions has fueled North Korean anger. Kim Jong Un's direct diplomacy with the US and South Korea was meant to show independence. North Korea sometimes even breaks ranks in international forums, supporting sovereignty over Chinese interests. These are not the moves of a loyal client, but a proud, unpredictable partner. The alliance is far more fragile than it appears. The Philippines and North Korea share a distant, almost invisible relationship. Diplomatic ties began only in 2000, with little trade or contact since. The Philippines enforces UN sanctions, making it more a watchdog than a partner. Occasionally, North Korea has supported Philippine initiatives in multilateral forums, but real cooperation is rare. For Manila, Pyongyang is mostly a security concern. That's why North Korea's sudden, vocal support for the Philippines is so baffling. It came out of nowhere, rewriting the rules overnight. Why did North Korea make this move? What's really driving Kim Jong Un's latest bold maneuver on the world stage? To understand, we need to look beyond the headlines and into the complex web of motivations shaping Pyongyang's actions. The clearest motive is to assert independence from China. For decades, North Korea has relied on its powerful neighbor for economic and political support, but Kim Jong Un is determined to chart his own course. Kim Jong Un wants to show he's no one's puppet. By making unexpected moves, he signals to both allies and adversaries that North Korea will not be easily controlled or manipulated. Economic desperation also plays a role. Years of harsh international sanctions and the devastating impact of COVID-19 have crippled the North's already fragile economy. Food shortages and unemployment are rising, putting pressure on the regime to find new solutions. By reaching out to a U.S. ally, Kim signals he's open to new partners and sources of aid. This is a calculated risk, designed to attract attention and possibly new investment or humanitarian assistance. It's a bargaining chip. By threatening China's interests, North Korea hopes to extract more support or concessions from Beijing. Kim is playing a high-stakes game, using every move to his advantage. Pyongyang is sending a clear message to Beijing. Don't take us for granted. The regime wants respect and leverage, not just handouts. It's also a play for global relevance, forcing the world to see North Korea as a strategic actor, not just a rogue state. Kim wants to be at the center of international negotiations, shaping outcomes rather than being sidelined. Kim wants to be seen as a defender of the underdog, not just a provocateur. He's carefully crafting an image of leadership and resilience for both his people and the world. The Philippines, in this context, is a pawn in a much bigger game of power and influence. Its role is significant, but it's the larger forces at play that will determine the outcome. This is high-stakes diplomacy, North Korean style, unpredictable, bold, and always calculated to keep rivals off balance. The world is watching and guessing. Every move is analyzed, every gesture scrutinized, as leaders try to anticipate Kim's next step. Kim's gamble could reshape Asia's balance of power, with consequences that reach far beyond the Korean peninsula. The stakes have never been higher. Some analysts suspect a deeper game. What if China and North Korea are coordinating? Pyongyang's criticism could be a ploy, good cop, bad cop, to confuse the West and extract concessions. If the US believes the alliance is fracturing, it might ease pressure on North Korea. Or, this could be pure domestic propaganda, Kim burnishing his image as a fearless, independent leader. Internal power struggles in Pyongyang may also be at play. The truth is hidden behind North Korea's walls. Whether this is strategy or chaos, the world can only guess. In North Korean politics, nothing is ever as it seems. North Korea's gambit is a stark reminder. Asian alliances are never fixed. History is full of enemies turned partners, like the US and Vietnam, or allies forced together by new threats, like Japan and South Korea. Strategic interests can override even the deepest grievances. North Korea's move shatters the myth of a monolithic China-North Korea bloc. In Asia's diplomatic chess game, the smallest player can change everything. The only constant is change. Assumptions can be upended in an instant. The future of Asian alliances is unpredictable and full of surprises. The world must stay alert. In this region, nothing is ever truly settled.